Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. And I'm here today to talk to you about Saw 2. This movie came out in 2005. And in my opinion, it is the best Saw movie of the entire franchise. I've seen every single Saw movie there is, but I have not seen the last three. I've pretty much just given up on them. After Saw the Final Chapter, or Saw 3D, however you want to call it, I just gave up because you can kind of tell that the franchise in my opinion is just dead, and it's been dead since the third movie. Because while the first two are my favorite, I just kind of like the third. I don't like how there's only one person going through the traps in the third movie, but I do love the ending. And, killing John Kramer was probably like the dumbest thing ever. So the movie franchise should have just died after that. But they kept pushing movie after movie after movie because they kept making so much money. I mean, I did not care for Hoffman. I did not care for John Kramer's wife. And I did not care for the lackluster storylines and stuff. The traps were alright, but they kept trying to push the gore as much as possible. And at that point, I'm just kind of like, alright, I see this for what it is, a cash cow. And I'm not here to ride no cow. But I stuck with it, thinking, okay, the final chapter is the final chapter. I started with this franchise, but then it's kind of like, I'm just done now. I don't care about Spiral. I don't care about the Jigsaw movie. I hear Saw X is really good, but I could care less. Apparently, it takes place between the events of the first two movies. I hope it doesn't retcon the second movie, because I really love the second movie. And I really hope they're not doing the Halloween thing where they're like, all right, y'all don't like these movies, so we're just going to set up a new timeline. Because I'm getting really tired of movie franchises doing that. If they would just take their time and care to make a movie, they wouldn't have to do that crap. But Saw 2, I truly feel like Saw 2 is a mad genius movie. It's actually the first one I ever saw in the entire franchise. Yeah, I have that habit of seeing the second movie first and then the first movie second. But I saw this free when I was in college, and I remember I went with some friends when we went for like the free showing, and my friend was a huge fan of like the first movie and stuff. And so going into the second movie, I had no idea what the freak nuts was going on. And he's all like, oh, she's from the first movie. I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't understand, but now I do understand. And it's funny because it's like, the actress who plays Amanda and the actor who plays Jigsaw never thought in a million years they would come back to like the franchise, especially when it comes to the Amanda character. When you watch the first movie, it's just kind of like, oh, she is back. And the actress Beverly, who plays Laura, I think that's her name, she wanted a new challenge in life when it comes to acting, because apparently she doesn't like horror movies, and it took her 5 times to watch the first movie, and she can't even get through stuff. The actor who plays Daniel, it's ironic because I never knew he was Robbie from Scream 4. Apparently, the first Saw movie he loved so much that he fought extremely hard to be in this movie. And it's funny, he says Saw and Scream are his two favorite franchises. And then years later, he was in the Saw movie. So good for that dude. And it's funny because the dude who plays Rig, originally he was supposed to play a Xavier. He auditioned for that part. But they felt like, okay, that would be too stereotypical of like, a black drug dealer. So instead they went with the Puerto Rican drug dealer. What the? You know what's crazy about this movie? is you go throughout the entire movie and you don't know most of the characters' names because they're never giving names. Like the prostitute lady. What is her name? And as for Beverly's character, I had to look up her name was like Laura and stuff. And it's just like crazy how like you go throughout this entire movie and you don't really know some of these people's names. What's also mad genius about this movie is that they have you rooting for bad people. Just about every person in this movie, except for the black cop and that female cop played by Diane Mayer, everybody else is scummy. All the people going through the traps are actually criminals and stuff and have done bad things in their life. Um, Eric Matthews, the cop, played by one of the Donnie Wahlberg, I think his name is. He's a bad cop. I mean, seriously. And then of course there's Jigsaw. And it's just like every time these people are in danger, you're like, oh no, I feel so terrible for you. But then it's like, oh wait, you're actually a bad person. I hate when movies do that crap. They did it with Orphan First Kill, and they did it with some other movie. I can't remember what it is right now. It's where you root for bad people. And it's kind of like, no, you ain't supposed to do that. But you can't help but to do it because of the way they put these people in bad situations and stuff. And that right there is just genius on its own, in my opinion. As for the traps, some of the traps were pretty cool. See, this movie had a bigger budget than that of the first. The first, nobody was really expecting it to be a hit. It was a pretty somber movie until you get towards the end. It's like, holy crap. Plus, Amanda's trap was cool. Come on now. But then the first movie, why I do like the first movie, they just talk and talk and talk. And they really upped the ante with this second movie. But they upped it a little too much with that green and yellow filter. It's just kind of like, it's a little saturation every now and then, but it does give it a nice vibe in its own style. And, just like how Saw reinvented the slasher horror, no, not Saw, how Scream reinvented the slasher horror, Saw reinvented it as well as kind of like what they call torture porn or whatever, but it's torture horror. When Saw came out, everybody was trying to like duplicate it and stuff. The movie Hostel, even Arkham Asylum video game, the Riddler had more of a Jigsaw Saw type vibe to him and everything. That's how big these movies were. And even Melissa Joan Hart and her mom ripped off Saw to a degree when they came out with the movie Nine Dead I just reviewed. Because even Melissa herself said on MySpace back in the day, oh, this movie is like Saw and everything. And it kind of is and it's kind of not. It's more like the first movie where you got a bunch of people in the room. They're trying to figure out how they know each other. There's a killer who will kill them. They don't figure out in 10 minutes. However, when it comes to Saw 2, they slightly ripped off House of Nine. And so did Nine Dead. See, the first Saw movie came out in 2004. I believe, House of Nine either came out in that same year or the year before, or 2002, I can't remember. And so when you watch this movie, just like with House of Nine, it's like a group of people in a house. And, people are dying. And at the end, the winner or whatever, you could say, get to be free or whatever. House of Nine, of course, had 9 people in the house. Saw 2 has 8. But technically, you can count 9 because there's a dude who's already dead with a knife sticking in him. But if you don't want to count him, then towards the end, there's another person who enters the game, and that could make the ninth person. And like, what's ironic is that all three of these movies have like a cop who's trapped in the house, a mouthy, like, woman who's just angry all the time. Let's see what else. A goody goody two shoes woman, or a goody goody two shoes character, a drug dealer type person. Let's see what else. Oh, a stereotypical, like, ghetto person, or a stereotypical black person. And it's just kind of like, they just keep like repeating that same formula over and over and over. They had to have seen each other's movies. Like, they had to. Well, I know Melissa did, because she's all like, it's like Saw and everything. James Wan and Lee Whannell, they truly came up with something magical when they created this franchise. Like, they really did. But sadly, they would not last in this franchise because James didn't come back after the first to direct, and they got a new director that of Darren. Wait, I can't even see my notes. Darren Lynn Brosnan or something like that. He came back to direct this one and the third movie. And as for Lee, he stuck around to help write, like, this movie. But he bowed out sometime after the third, I believe. And both creators stuck around to be executive producers on all the other movies. And pretty much an executive producer is just somebody who pumps in money, and they'll give like a little bit of feed, like a little bit of like notes of what they want to see in the movie. But other than that, that's all they do. While like the writers and the directors do whatever they want. And you can tell because after the third movie, it just didn't feel genuine. It didn't feel like it had like a heart or soul. It just felt like pumping out as much money as it could get to, like, bring in like the gore and, like, the suspense, just to bring in like an audience and stuff. They just feel kind of hollow. I remember still when I watched that fourth movie. In fact, tell you the truth, even when I watched the third movie, I was a little disappointed with the third movie. It's just I wasn't expecting it to go that way. Because when you see because the thing about the second movie that's awesome is the twist upon twist upon twist at the ending of like the second movie. So I was expecting all those events to take place in the third, and only really one took place and everything. And not the way I thought it would go. And then they, of course, killed John at the end of the third movie. And then finally, in the fourth movie, that other twist got revealed and stuff. And it's like, really? After two movies, now you bring that person back? But then what pissed me off about the third was, I'm never going to review the third because I don't even feel like rewatching it again. It was alright, but I really hated that brain surgery. But that ending reveal at the third was awesome. But then the little girl never appeared in the movie again. And so what was the point in even having her there? But anyways, it's like, then you get to the fourth movie, and it's just kind of like, that's the one that revolves around the black cop. And it was just kind of like, I didn't understand why he was put through the test. Like, they say his obsession and everything with that other person who was captured. And I'm just kind of like, that's not a real good reason to put somebody through a test. And then, of course, the second twist from, like, the second movie, that person barely did anything for the fourth. And it was just kind of like, what are y'all doing? Then they kind of retconned a little bit as to why John Kramer does what he does. They established in the second movie, this is when he started to come up with his idea to, like, start, like, punishing people. But then in the fourth movie, we see something else happens that causes him to do it. So which is it, or are they both? So, and plus I just don't like Hoffman. It's not the actor. But every time I see him, I'm reminded of Secret Agent Man from UPN. And because it's funny, because both him and Dana Mayer were both in Secret Agent Man, UPN, and they were both in the Saw franchise. And I also just don't care for John Kramer's wife. Like, I simply just don't. I don't understand why she tried to take up the mantle for. It's like, really? Husband and wife are both crazy in the head? But when it comes to Jigsaw, in whatever movie the Saws are, it's like, he's an interesting antagonist. Yes, I don't care what this man says. He is a killer. He might not kill directly, but he sets up these events that causes people to die, so he inadvertently kills people and stuff. Or however you say it. Like, he is a murderer and stuff, but he thinks he's saving people so that people can, live for the fullest instead of, like, mess up their lives. Great intentions, but there's a better way to do it than, like, torturing and killing people and stuff. And it is kind of ironic. He doesn't see himself as like a villain or like a murderer, yet he wears kind of like a slashery type costume. I mean, that long black robe with the red trimmings, and then sometimes he'll wear like a pig mask and stuff. It's like, dude, you're so playing like a Halloween like villain. But I guess they want to say, oh, that's just his regular robe. But nah, I don't know, man. But like Saw 2, I love how it ups the ante up the first. Instead of 2 people being trapped in a room, now it's 8. And all these people all have something in common that they all have to figure out. And not only is it up the ante, but they only have a few minutes or hours until this lethal virus that's been injected in them will kill them. And that's pressure enough as it is, as you have to walk around this maze of a house that's really huge. And apparently the house is connected to the bathroom of the first movie. But what's so insane about that is that we learn that the bathroom is actually below the house that they are in. I mean, it's an interesting way to tie into the first, but what the heck is that bathroom doing down in like a basement type area? Because do you really expect Dr. Gordon from the first movie to escape like the bathroom only to like I guess like what, go up a bunch of stairs missing his foot? And so like, yeah, but I do love how they up the cast with this, because this cast is very different from each other, and they are just like adamant about fighting each other constantly. They just can't get along. But there are some in there that are pretty genuine and nice that try to keep the calm and the peace, even though they are bad themselves. And like I said before, you don't even know most of these people's names and stuff. And so it pretty much just starts off with, this informant going through a head trap with nails and stuff. And it's pretty awesome, especially where the key is located. And who doesn't love Billy the Puppet? So anyways, it'd be funny if they make a supernatural movie where Billy the Puppet is kind of like Chucky or Slappy, the ventriloquist dummy. That would be so cool. But anyways, so we get to meet our dirty cop, Eric Matthews, who's just a slum bucket of a man, and played by Donnie Wahlberg, who does a really good job. Like, I think sometimes he might be a better actor than Mark. And so, like, pretty much, like, he can't get along with his son. His son just got, like, busted for something. His son wants to go live with his mom because he doesn't like his dad. But then when the son goes missing, the dad gets worried, until Dana Mayer's character from the first movie, who had, like, a cameo, calls him in and basically is all like, I need you to help me solve this Jigsaw, like, murder that just happened, because that's his informant. And so pretty much the events lead to them finding John Kramer. John, of course, only had like a cameo in the first movie. And nobody was expecting this dude with cancer to be Jigsaw. But not only that, they wasn't expecting the dude laying on the floor in the first movie to be the killer. I just love how methodical like Tobin Bell like speaks to people in these movies. There's this eerie vibe you get from him. He says he puts a little of himself into every role, which is now disturbing when you hear him speak in like all these roles he plays a bad guy. And so, like, you can just hear him speak for like hours and stuff. And of course, it's pissing off like the detective dude. But the big reveal when they pull back the sheets is that they see the monitors and there are like 8 people trapped in the room. And it reminds me of the ending of House of Nine. I'm telling you, man, somebody saw these movies. And so, like, these house guests, if you want to call them that, have to go through all these games and everything to, like, survive so they can get the antidotes because they have a virus in them. And they can't get along. People are dropping like flies. And there's some pretty impressive traps, like the little gun behind the door, the inferno of all things. But the bed of needles is probably the coolest one of them all. And I still can't believe the process of going through that. They had like over 1,000 needles. And so they're real syringes, but they was fake needles made of rubber. And everybody had to like paint one that yellowish kind of reddish color. Did you know that took hours to do? And so like Gus, I think his name was, he's the first to go, get shot in the eye. And then Obi is the one who dies in the inferno, which I'm glad he dies because when he helped, like, kidnap the people, but then he kissed that one girl, Laura, his scummy behind. So I'm glad he burnt up. And Xavier, his trap was next with the bed of like needles and stuff, or pit of needles. But he made Amanda go through it and crap. And that was just like insane because he's so aggressive and thuggish that dude played that character too well. And so like it was just disturbing seeing her in the bed of like needles, especially because she's barefooted and stuff and she's so skinny. Shawnee Smith, she's normally a comedic actress, and normally comedic actors can't do drama, but she does it so well and everything. And like, basically Xavier, he doesn't care who he has to hurt, in order for him to get those antidotes. But after a while, he starts to snap because he's so aggressive. And apparently what they all have in common is that they all done like jail time, but it's more than just that. See, Eric Matthews, the cop, he framed all of them and stuff. The reason why they spent so many years in jail, yeah, they've done bad stuff in the past, but the reasons they recently went to jail for was all because that one cop dude planted evidence. He's really bad. He plants evidence. He beats people. He does all kinds of crap. And so, like, all of this is because of him, and that's why his son is suffering. Plus, his son does a little, like, bad stuff every now and then. But he's never really been in trouble, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, eventually, some of the people in the house find this out, and they want nothing to do with that of Daniel. And so, like, in order to get like the safe open with the antidotes or whatever, like, or to get out the house, there's a combination code that's written on the back of everybody's neck in different colors, the colors of the rainbow, which is something like, well, the thing about Jigsaw, he gives you clues to how to get out of stuff, but you have to figure it out. And so at one point, Xavier figures it out. And he starts going to every person that's dead and like looking in the back of their neck. And as the one girl, the prostitute lady, was in the wrist trap, which the people who created this said that all she had to do was walk around the other side and you can just like grab the antidote. You didn't have to put your hands through it. I can still see the glass on the back parts. I don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, he just leaves her there to like die and everything. And so the Laura girl, this is what's so weird about her death. Some people say the virus took her out because she kept spazzing, compulsing, and throwing up blood. But when you look at the person who's holding her, that person's hands are around her neck and they're kind of suffocating her. So I think the person holding her was secretly killing her while she was throwing up blood. Because when you look at that person's look on their face, they look kind of disturbed, if you know what I'm talking about. And so, like, eventually he finds all the numbers, but at this point, he's chasing like Amanda and Daniel through the house. They end up in like the bathroom, and he tells them straight up he just wants the number on their back. But he's been killing people and letting people die. Like, he killed the black dude in the house and stuff when those two fought because they couldn't get along. Then he let the other girl die. The most disturbing thing was when he cut off his skin in the back of his neck to see the number. You see the flap of the skin and then it jiggles like jelly and he puts it in his pocket. But if you look at the knife, it's a buck knife. The Scream knife. That knife has appeared in so many other movies and television shows, horror type stuff. It has appeared in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. It appeared in some other movie. I can't remember what, but it was a horror movie. But that knife just keeps appearing everywhere. And so then eventually, Daniel is forced to kill him with the same saw that what's his name used to cut his ankle off in the first movie. Well, eventually, the detective dude, he figures out like where the house is. So he goes along and he takes John with him. And so it's this big suspenseful thing when you see the cop going through the house and then you see Xavier roaming through the house looking to like get the numbers and kill people. It's very suspenseful until you see the detective dude go to where the safe is and there is an antidote there on the ground and stuff, and it's kind of like, well, who the heck got that? So what the heck is going on? That's that big twist reveal. Also, I'm wondering, is the antidote, was it in the bed of needles? Because the antidote is green, and when you pull out the key in the bed of like needles, there's one that's filled with green liquid. So it makes you wonder. So anyways, the huge twist at the end of the movie is that apparently all this stuff that's been going on in the house happened like a long time ago. It was recorded and shown to the cops like it was in real time until the cops realized that they've been watching a pre-recorded thing of events that have already happened. And so when the cop goes down into like the bathroom, he is injected with like a tranquilizer thing. He wakes up to discover Amanda is secretly working with Jigsaw. That twist came out of nowhere and it is genius. And she's pissed because like he framed her for like drug charges and stuff and she had to spend time in jail. And I think that's how she first met Jigsaw. So that was just insane. And then it turns out that Daniel, all this entire time, was inside a safe inside Jigsaw's like laboratory, and the cops were there the whole time and never knew he was there because the timer that's counting down unlocks the safe lock, and there he is in there with a breathing mask and an oxygen tank. And it's funny because Jigsaw literally told Eric that your son is in a safe and secure place, meaning a actual safe. And so now the detective dude has like a chain on his foot, and you think he's going to go through the same events of the first movie, but then you get to the third movie and it's nothing like that at all. Because in the second movie, it appears that John died of his cancer, but then he survived and he needs brain surgery for the third. Amanda is a new Jigsaw person and she takes the female cop hostage. But the trap that she gives her, there's no way to get out of that. So Amanda has to be tested for a third time because she's not giving these people an option to live. Jigsaw and Amanda dies in the third. And so there's a guy there whose wife is there, who's a doctor, and they kidnap this daughter. And you think the daughter is gonna appear, or appear in like the fourth, or the dude who had to go through the traps. But no, they do appear in the fourth, but the girl is rescued. The guy who went through the traps gets shot dead, and we get a brand new Jigsaw who apparently has been working there the entire time, Hoffman, and the wife. And it's just kind of like, I'm done. That wasn't that spooky. All right, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.